say I
I'm
watched
hoping
The
I do
Witcher. I
it,
didn't
Lord of the
really.
Rings. Just turn my brain off and say, "Hey, this isn't canon." Yeah.
This isn't a thing. I didn't care about Witcher. I never played Witcher. I never read Witcher. The first season was all right for what it was, going in blind. I didn't really care. But I didn't bother with the second season because, again, I didn't care. It didn't grab me, and it didn't, it was just there.
I like second season more, but yeah. It's okay. It's like a 5 out of 10, right? It's just like it is mediocre, but the creature design in it, that's 10 out of 10.
And I'd watch Henry Cavill play just about any role. He's awesome.
Also, he's also.
Do we fight about this next week, or do we have a topic? Because
we can fight about that next week.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, I guess you have to come back.
How the hell is it 5 out of 10? Give me a break.
You're right. It's a 3 out of 10. Is that what we're going with?
Like a 7 at a minimum.
I'd say season 1 was a 6. I'd give season 2 at least a 7.5 or an 8. I don't know. As far as like if you're not comparing it to the book, I think, which again, I'm not beholden to the Witcher books. I didn't even finish the series because it kind of lost me. But
Yeah. Mike's got to come back, and we're going to argue about that.
I was going to say, welcome to the Dresden Files podcast this week. That's why all you people are actually here, allegedly.
Oh, are we on?
We're about to lay down the law.
Alex just goes live on the dot. Doesn't matter what we're talking about.
Or after the dot if we're cursing. Although we're past the threshold now, so we can curse.
Yeah, so fuck all y'all, just because I can.
We're a minute and a half in, so safe to say.
Here's our love and inclusion.
Yeah.
We never claimed to have that. That's not on the masthead.
No, this is about suffering and pain and disappointment and cuss words.
So please subscribe to our Patreon.
And we will do all of that on our Discord.
On a daily basis as opposed to just once a week.
You can get to call us names there if you want to, and we'll take it because you're paying us. It's great.
Yeah. We are pretty easy when it comes to that.
So Mike has graced us with his presence again because I really wanted to ask people who were not so into the niche of Dresden, who have more outward adventures, an opinion of the law, because we get so tied into it. Like, of course we like it. And I need to know, like, someone needs to be the canary to me. Like, was this good? Was this bad? Please tell us your opinions.
Well, I know about as much of Dresden Files as like zero of the people here because I read it really fast and I read it. When did Battleground was a year or two ago since Battleground? I don't even know what years all played together. But they said, hey, do you want to come on and talk about the law? And I said, hey, I like great Koolaid. Why not?
There you go.
Did I like it? Is that the question?
Yeah, I mean, some people have been a little
as much as I just have the saying with novellas and short stories where I don't really like them because I feel like right when it's getting going, it ends. It's like it's cool to be back in this universe and seeing these characters again. And then I like put the book down. I was like, what do you mean I'm 68% done? I just started reading it, So that's kind of rough. But I don't know if an episode of Law and Order is exactly what I wanted after Battleground. And I kind of feel like what this is. But I didn't have a real problem with it or anything. It's cool to see the character again. I think I just want, Dresden 18 like everybody, right?
Yeah, I mean that is the criticism I have also heard repeated the most is how it doesn't really fit following Battlegrounds. It's from the people who are like outside, like because we're just like more any Dresden, we're just like yeah, give it to us. But then it does. Like I watched Daniel Green's review of it, and he was like, he sees it from outside, from like an author perspective. It makes sense, right? You're saving all the aftermath of Battleground for the actual next book, but the law kind of just feels oddly suspended. Like he's not really dealing with anything that happened in Battleground. It's not really. It's just.
I was going to say, I think
turning blue.
Yeah, I think Christmas Eve. Was it? What was the Molly one? Christmas Eve.
Good people.
Right. Good people and Christmas Eve. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but I think those handled it a little better because they were, insular to the one person doing the one activity. So I think people who now read essentially A Day in the Life of Dresden in the Aftermath are going to feel kind of whelmed about this because it's, it's not committing enough to it because it can't. And then there's also, I mean, you're always going to get the people who are like, no, just do more magic. And I'm like, all right, fine. But,
I mean, I'm an easy sell. If it has Marcone in it, I'm usually going to like it. And I did like their parts. I love the spoilers are okay here, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I kind of like their begrudging respect they had for one another in this. I think that's probably my favorite part of this whole story was whenever Marcone and Harry are interacting, I'm usually all aboard, and I think that was probably my favorite parts of this.
When he just straight up gave him props for pulling one over on him, to get the castle, and he's like, "Hey, good job," and Harry's like, "Excuse me." Yeah, I don't know. It's funny just listening to your guys's critique. It's not even really criticism, I think, but like it almost could have been solved by being elsewhere. Like if it had been released after the next book, it doesn't seem like it would be so bad, right? Because I'm sure the next book is going to deal with a lot of that. It's going to deal with the aftermath of Lara and all of that stuff. So like I think this is great in the Dresden Files, but you're right, like smoldering embers of ash and debris are just like right here around the corner, but we're not dealing with anything that heavy. We're dealing with this small story, which was kind of the point as well. Like it's kind of a recovery thing for Dresden. Like he just got his ass kicked a month ago. Like sure he won, but at what cost? And all of that stuff, and we get little tastes of that, as he talks about his routine in the opening couple of paragraphs and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I didn't feel like taken off guard by how abbreviated it was. Like it wasn't dealing with external things. Like Maggie isn't mentioned at all. The Carpenters are mentioned briefly, but they're not like in it. We're not dealing with the entirety of the problem that we will see in 12 months. And I felt like almost like having read Little Things kind of prepared me for what to expect in the law, because it was a very small snapshot of like the dangers are still there. The castle's kind of running, but they have tarps everywhere, and everything's still like having to figure itself out. I didn't feel like something was missing, but people have been saying, but like seriously, where was Maggie? She wasn't being mentioned in any way. Is she living at the castle? Is she still living at the Carpenters? Where was Bonnie or anything else like that? And it's like some of that's kind of like missing. It feels like the presence of Maggie should have been talked about. But a lot of the rest of it is like, we're just not dealing with the rest of Chicago. It's like, well, of course not, because we're dealing with this tiny little case. And that was exactly what was written on the tin.
Right.
I get that. Well, I feel like if Laura was mentioned in the book, I don't remember it at all.
They were mentioning that they have to litigate the details of their date.
Yeah, they have to go on their first date.
Right. So I was like, I would be thinking that like we were in Harry's head, he'd be thinking about, oh yeah, and I've got this ticking clock here, so
yeah. And Map's got lawyers.
Yeah, I didn't need it to progress like the main storyline. I know how a short story works. This to me just kind of felt like when you have like this big major revelation in X-Files, and then the next week it would do Monster of the Week that made like you could miss it, it'd been fine. It's kind of how it felt. Right. Like. It wasn't a bad time, but it's nothing I'm going to be like, oh my god, you've got to read the law right now.
It was a time.
Yeah, a time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and certainly compared to something like, was it Cold Case or? Yeah, Cold Case was Molly's story, right? Where I felt like that one actually brought in world building and brought in a facet of the universe that we haven't seen before. This one you could infer, right? You could infer this is a day in the life of Dresden based off of everything else you would know about the series by this point if you've read everything,
How many short stories have you? Did you do the the two books that are all the short stories together, or almost all the short stories, Mike?
It's probably the part where you kick me off the show.
You're fine.
I wasn't reading them while I was reading the series proper, and after I read Changes, everyone was like, "You need to read Aftermath, though, because it's kind of like the post-credit scenes of that." And I read it, and I thought it was okay. I didn't feel one way about it or the other, and so then I just kind of never really went back. I have this thing, guys, where I cannot listen to audiobooks, and I know that James Marshers does the audiobooks, but everybody has to tell me that every time I tell them. It's just an ADD thing. I don't have reading ADD, but I have listening ADD. It comes with kids, guys. You learn to block out stuff, but you can't turn that off. So I tried, because I had an Audible credit, I tried to listen to whichever the first of the short story collections was, whichever the first one.
Side Jokes.
I tried listening to it, and I was like into the third case, and I was like, I couldn't tell you anything that had just happened. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to read it physically. And I just never have. I just never went back to it. So,
I mean, because I was going to bring up what I think is true in the law, and is true in a lot of these short stories, which I like, is the Dresden Files main books. It's always the worst week of Harry's year, right? It's always like shit hits the fan, and Harry gets challenged, but a lot of these short stories where it involves Harry's, these like all these other little things that happen in the universe, we actually get to see Harry as more competent, or at least not meeting as large enemies or as large foes. So he actually gets to seem like more of a badass, which I really enjoy in a lot of those stories. Like it's not a harrowing problem where he's like short of sleep and has to hit up Burger King to refuel. It's just doing a little something, and I find them quite delightful.
Yeah,
Same
I
with
should
the
have done
lore.
it. I should have, because I know that when I was first talking about Peace Talks on the channel, I got grilled because I had no idea who River Shoulders was. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
these things happen, So I should have. I probably will. I mean, I don't. As far as I know, we have no date for the next Dresden book, so I'll be needing some Dresden Files in my life before then.
It's totally last January. Yeah, that's what we were told before. So it was like, stop telling us stupid shit, guys. Like, if you don't know, if he didn't tweet it, don't tell us. So, but yeah.
I mean, if you guys don't know, I don't imagine some rando on Reddit's gonna know. So.
Yeah, we're an authority. We're professionals.
You guys have. I know you guys could text Jim right now, and he'd probably jump on and be like, "Guys,
we know like second or third." Like I think Jim's cat knows before us, and then
Well, it's because Jim's cat. He's actually a ghostwriter.
Yeah,
that's the one behind it all.
Is he really writing a Cinder Spiders book before the next Dresden? Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, he likes to switch off. So he said you're still working on the Cinder Spiders.
You guys like Cinder Spiders?
Yes,
never.
I did.
I love it. I think it's very good, and I've tried his other series, Codex Alera, and I cannot get into that.
Thank you. That was where I was leading with this, guys. I just tried Codex Alera. I couldn't even make it through book 2. I was like, this is just.
Book 2 was my favorite of that
exactly
series.
the same for me, Mike. I did book 1, and then I think I've tried book 2 3 or 4 times, and halfway through every time I'm like, I cannot anymore, and I just put it away, and I don't know why.
I think this is the episode where we finally kill Justin. He's going to have an aneurysm.
He hasn't read that book either.
Yeah, I didn't.
No, I'm the only one that's read the Codex Alera here, apparently, and liked it. I don't understand. I mean, book 2 was my favorite, so I feel very disconnected.
It's just meh. Whatever. And I've heard it gets so good in book 3. I'm like, I shouldn't have to read 1,400 pages.
I've never been a fan of that.
For the story to get good, So
well, that was the thing. They say that about Dresden too, but I just picked it up randomly one day in a Borders, and I read the first book, and then I kept going because I enjoyed it enough. And even though yes, it does get stronger and it does get better, I'm never going to be the person that tells you, pick up Deadbeat just because you can do it's slightly able to jump into the world that way. So no, read it from the beginning. If you don't like it, you don't like it.
Right. I mean, the first 2 books were good. The third book was great. Like that's the difference. To me, anyway, like, sure, we've talked about it. Like, I liken it to picking your favorite Firefly episode, right? Look, man, there's only 15 of them. You're going to have to pick somebody's going to be the least favorite episode. Right. That doesn't mean I didn't like it, so yeah, Stormfront, Full Moon, I hate aspects of those books or whatever. Doesn't mean that I didn't love them because I kept going. And then in book 3, you're like, this is fantastic.
On first read, I didn't have a problem with it, but I think if I went back knowing how the heights the series reach now, it might seem kind of like season 1 of Buffy, where it's like, it had potential,
Yeah,
right.
You can see the bones, but they're pretty visible bones. The meat is not quite there yet. But if you read it enough to like it,
didn't mean to detract from the law. Sorry,
no,
y'all mentioned Cinder Spiders.
Well, I think it to bring it back to that. A lot of those short stories that we were just talking about, even when you can see Harry being more of a badass, like Andreas said, this one was pretty small on that by comparison. I mean, again, it doesn't have to be all magic and action all the time, but when essentially your one scene with that is a spiritual bear chasing you around and you don't really even do anything about it, I feel like even the casual people are going to be like, wait, I don't even get to see him fight.
Didn't it happen in Death Masks? Wasn't there like a big giant bear that chased him in Death Masks?
Yeah, but that was a physical one. It was a Denarian.
Right. So when I was like, wait a second, I feel like I've seen this before. Okay.
Well, yeah. So
they're ancient spirits. I'm sure that's a fairly common thing, like wolves and that sort of thing. But he did blow it up with dynamite. What more do you want, EG?
I was perfectly happy with the law. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was there. I accept it. I like that it exists. But if you're talking
That's
about most
high
people,
praise.
if you talk about most people and what their complaints are going to be about this, you know it's going to be things like this.
Something that I do love is how they're how he's showing how they're going to try to explain away what happened in Battleground with the heebie-jeebies,
Right.
as they're calling it. I thought
Yeah, that was a
actually
little.
that was pretty good. So I love that he was about the fuego in the face, and he's just like, whatever. And he has no idea what to do because the guy isn't intimidated by it.
I think it was because,
Right.
like you said, I don't do the audiobooks, I do reading. So listening to that accent, do the EBG was like, no, stop
Oh,
that.
is it bad?
No. Please don't do that. Don't tell me
I
that's
like
how you're
that
going to explain
accent,
that away.
actually.
No, it's an on-brand
read this
accent.
one,
It
right?
fits, but it's just I can't.
Did Jim read this one? Did I hear
Yes.
that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. How do you do?
Pretty
Besides
good.
that voice.
I mean, again, being
Me.
not an audiobook person, I got through it and it was fine.
Yeah,
It was fun to
Jim's
listen to
version
his
of Bob
versions.
is not Marster's version of Bob, but otherwise he did pretty good with most of them. Like he couldn't handle Mab's accent very well, he said, so he had to just whisper. But I didn't
Yeah,
find
he
that
did
distracting from
creepy
anything.
whisper. That was a little odd to me too. He was already not doing the voice. I mean, I hear people different, and it would probably be the same as if I ever listened to James's readings. These are not going to sound like they do in my head. But hearing him whisper Mab, I was like, oh, I had to pause and laugh for a minute there.
He did.
I've never
did
felt
like-
that these were like young adults or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, but was
No.
there a whole lot more fucks in this book than usual? Like he doesn't usually use the F word this much, does he? It doesn't bother me. I was just like, maybe it's because you're dealing with
Yeah.
like this mafia guy, I guess. I bet it was just like, man, there's a lot of F bombs in this.
Didn't even notice. But
I mean, it's hard for me to notice
You're
considering how I talk, but yeah, I think there was an uptake specifically because of Trip. He said most of them. So
I was going to
it
say, because
fits his
usually
character.
Harry's curses are the
Yeah.
hell's bells and stuff.
Hey,
Like
Well,
that.
because
he has
how
one
are you
big
gonna-
F-bomb every once in a while? Yeah,
Right.
how are you going to convey that he's a mobster if he doesn't say, "Hey, this fucking guy, I'm fucking walking here," you know?
Got
Just,
it! No.
That was the other problem. It was taking place in Jersey. We didn't know.
No, I
Walking
read Joe
here.
Abercrombie and Jay Kristoff who uses F words to describe their F words, so it didn't bother me. I was just saying,
Okay, you kinda sold me on reading some of those now.
Jim might be
You-
grumpy now. So.
Alex, please read some Joe Abercrombie.
I
bet-
have read at least one of his books. It just like it didn't.
Clearly, it left its mark.
But,
if you
well,
want
some
some-
of it did, but like as I had to go find the second one, it was just like I don't care that much right now, so I haven't gotten back to it. In
Man, you made it through Codex
5 years.
Alera, but not the first law. Whew.
the first law, or the blade itself, was it's something I had to like work and put a lot of effort into keep reading. Where the like Codex Alera, I just kind of devoured, but there was like
don't
6 years in
understand.
between those. I read Codex Alera when I was a
Just
teenager.
flip
Maybe
'em.
that's why.
Flip them and reverse them. That's kind of where I'm at. Hey,
Yeah.
You know, one thing's for everyone, like I always say.
If you also want the best audiobooks I've ever listened to, then there's the First Law books. I know Mike
Yeah,
doesn't really do audiobooks, but he is so good, the narrator. It's unreal.
I've listened to some samples. It's pretty amusing. He has a really good Galacta voice.
Yeah, I love the detail like he does with, because Glock is a character who's missing a lot of teeth, and when Glock thinks in his own voice with teeth. When Glock speaks, you can hear he doesn't have any teeth, which I think is just a
Hey.
great detail. But yeah, side tangent to the law, but yeah, you should.
That's
read-
going to happen with me a
read
lot.
those
Sorry,
books.
I do that.
No, that's what we do here. That's
I
like
do
it's
bill
a
a
3.5 hour
James,
novella.
yeah.
We're in part 2 of probably 4 to discuss this novella because of our tangents.
when it's going to be like another year or two before we get another
I was going to
book,
say, yeah,
you
we're
know?
going to eventually.
We're
Talk about
we
the
got
grape Koolaid part. That to me, when I was reading Codex Alera, I felt like I didn't need it to be. I'm not like I didn't need it to be an MCU movie. I didn't need jokes every 5 seconds for it to feel like. I just felt like what I always liked about Dresden Files, when everything got super serious, you always had a good crack. Like I like grape Koolaid kind of thing. And this, it actually kind of made me laugh a lot. That's what I felt like was missing from Codex Alera. So I feel like the humor is still, properly timed in
Mm.
this. So I'm trying to think of things that I liked a lot. I didn't dislike anything. It was just fine. Like you said, it just kind of exists. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's cool.
I feel like
That-
rising
that-
to the level of dislike for this is having too strong an opinion on it.
That might be why I like the Cinderspires more than trying to read Codex Alera. It is definitely, there's more quippiness in the Cinderspires than there is in Codex Alera, from what I
It's
remember.
kind of a cheat code to be able to always, make Star Wars references and stuff in your book when you can't do that in a time period fantasy book, So.
Does help.
That is true. What did you think about the introduction of Dresden's lawyer, which was my favorite new thing from this series, this little novella?
I think it's neat how he always finds people where they're like, I won't do it for anything. And he always has like the magic word that makes me like, damn it, okay, I'll do it for free. Yeah. You know? So I think if anything, that's his superpower.
Well, because it works on him all the time.
Mhm.
It worked with her. I mean,
not doing your damn thing.
that's why he got hired in the first place.
Okay,
It's like,
I'll do
oh,
it. Yeah.
shit. So,
I mean, yeah, it was the same thing. It was just a description of like, well, there's a woman in trouble, and a few extra words. Okay, I'll do it. And the same thing, go to Max. Like, well, there's a woman in trouble, and you're the only one who can do it. Therefore, okay, fine. They're very of a kind.
And Bob wants to know if she's going to get naked. I mean, these are always a constant.
Can you
priorities.
pay the lawyers with sex?
Well, you could. Just not this one.
I think for Bob, that's the only like functional currency
Yeah.
that he understands.
I
No,
mean,
he
it's probably
understands
better
child
for us all that he
sacrifice,
doesn't
too.
understand the financial system.
Most likely.
I mean, that's something I gotta bring up for Jim sometime if he comes on again. Giving Bob access to the internet. What was he thinking? That's just a recipe for disaster.
I mean, what Jim was thinking is that
Well, that's why, 'cause
eventually
Dresden gets
Harry needs the ability to Google.
I mean, you can tell, right, that it's been like we had the 20-year anniversary, like 20 years ago to now. Like I don't think he considered the internet as much back then as how prevalent it is now, and everybody has it in their pockets. You know, that wasn't a 20 years ago. So I get why he's doing this, and it's in a clever way, right? Having Bob having access to the internet.
Well, I guess he
Just
knew
as
enough
long as
about
he-
it because he knew enough to know cell phones, the internet's going to be a resource. So I don't want Harry to have that resource. Now it's just a matter of getting an end around.
I just
that.
don't believe Bob would ever stop looking at porn if he had access to
Right.
the internet. So he must have some great like net nanny or ad blockers or something on there, for Bob.
Or Bob is really good at multitasking.
Gary somehow
an
like
incognito window open.
yeah.
Pretty much.
As long as he doesn't get access to his financials, because that's where he's going to really get screwed, So
Because then
Once
he
Bob
realizes
finds
he
out
can
about-
pay for it.
yeah, right. Once Bob finds out about OnlyFans and the bank account, and be like, boop, nuclear explosion in that bank account. So
No, he'll just be like Ultron. He'll just take the money from somewhere else and put it in. Because Harry definitely doesn't have a bank account that can afford anything.
Right,
mean,
and then
right
Harry's
now
going to get persecuted for theft and fraud and identity theft and all of that.
Right.
Because of,
But it'll be under Harry's auspices, so that's fine. That's his problem. That's not Bob's problem.
It's true. It's not Bob's problem, but this is why Bob is scary. But I did really like the difference. Like they show that Bob had Googled Talvy and Verno and not found anything. Then they go to internet native paranoid Gary, and he was able to find things because he actually can read between the lines of it, what it means and how to get around various blocks that Bob still doesn't get because Bob also signs off his text messages.
Yeah, true.
He's just not as good with the dark web as Gary is. Yeah. My mom used to sign text messages. I'm not saying I'm like, I can see that it's from you, Mom, but it's kind of she'd still be using a VCR.
Okay.
Evo, so
Yeah, it's just in case.
So what we had done last time was kind of a chapter by chapter dissection, and we can continue that unless we have any more random unstructured thoughts.
I'm sure we do, but none are
They will interrupt as we go.
They will probably come up about 2 minutes after you start going through.
Other
the
than
chapter.
grape Koolaid is the worst option and should never be offered to anyone.
I don't think I've ever had. We don't think we don't have Kool-Aid here, but
dude, it's
is it like
99% sugar, no matter what. How can you?
When they try and assimilate that flavor, it does not come
yeah,
off.
the
well.
90s they came out with
know,
sugar-free Kool-Aid.
look-
It was like, what was the point? That's like
Yeah.
that's like alcohol-free beer. What's the point?
Right.
Just like
So
the flavor.
is it like a syrup you mix with water and then you
Powder.
Powder.
powder? Okay, because
Powdered
we have
sugar that you mix with water. Yeah.
we don't have it in powder. We do have these bottles of different syrups that you mix with water. I guess that's kind of our Kool-Aid then.
To be fair,
I don't
I
have the
haven't
You
had
do
Kool-Aid
it-
in about 30
Do you
years,
do it
yeah.
by the gallon? Because if you don't do it by the gallon, then yeah. It's
Yeah,
another-
have the little scooper like you were doing whey protein or something. You scoop it in and you do as much as you want. But then they came out with, like the pre-made ones that used to be in the little plastic bottles that looked like bottles. And those are the ones I liked more because I didn't want to have to work for my Kool-Aid. I would
Kids, those little barrels, but it's because it's sugar
Yeah.
free. You get like little tinfoil on the top. I don't even know what they're called. And I buy them for them. We call them barrels. I don't know. I did not think I'd be talking about this today. This is wild.
We just bring that out of people, so
Memory lane.
That's our superpower, is making tangents out of nothing.
I love it.
That's how you're filling content between books.
That's why I will
Yeah, 'cause we
review
don't
a
get
book
tangents.
that's 100 pages and it will be 20 minutes long. And people are like, how did you come up with that much to talk about? I was like, simple. I didn't talk about the book that much.
I talked about everything but.
All right, so we had left at the beginning of chapter 6, which is actually when Harry goes to meet with Will and Paranoid Gary. I think this is the first time we get to see Gary in the this book, and he is lean, Indian by way of Indiana, and has his hair in the buzz cut on the sides and left kind of unkempt and curly on the top, which seems to be the new haircut of this era. And there was a conspiracy theory that he didn't believe in. UFOs, Bigfoot, Templar, secret government cabals, everything. But he actually got Gary to come in person instead of a phone call or an email or a text or a tweet or anything.
Which I guess is probably been easier since Battlegrounds. So
I would have thought harder because he was in the city during Battlegrounds, and that would have been a stay away forever.
Granted, going to the castle that is still standing does seem like maybe that is safer.
I suppose.
Right. But Gary also won't give anyone his phone number, so it's not even possible to call him. How do they get in touch with him at all? Probably the text messages, but that still reads the phone number. Whatever.
It's through. It could be through like something like a Signal. It's their service. It's called, which is like end-to-end encrypted text, and you don't need to have a phone number connected to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, Gary probably would be.
I couldn't remember this character at first. I was he in Skin Game? Was that the last time we saw him? Was he in Battleground?
He was in Battleground briefly.
Really?
It was Cold Days, wasn't it?
Well, that's why he came in with the boats, because he was tracking that the boats rentals has gone up by 400%.
Is it some guy named Gary? We just call him
Crazy,
Paranoid
but
Gary.
not wrong, Gary.
Boats. Yeah.
And he also keeps getting around spam blockers.
Mm-hmm.
So at first I was like, is this one like one of the lone gunmen again from X-Files? I didn't think I'd talk about X-Files twice today, but that's what I was thinking of. And then I was like, wait a second. No, this guy's been here before. So this is the problem when you just like speed ran all of them in like 3 months.
Right.
Some of the stuff kind of bleeds together.
Yeah, right. The last we saw him in Page was at the start of Battlegrounds. He's in the bar at Max in the back, and Harry steals his bike or borrows his bike.
Yeah.
And Gary had tried to put on like a very bad Russian accent or something.
Yeah,
it was not fooling anyone. He's very paranoid, so his epitaph works. And he is basically the signals intelligence that Harry has. And so the first thing that they ever talk about is any word on Justine. Nothing new. So just the reader knows you are not getting any new information on anything important about Justine.
Deal with it.
Did you bring up Thomas, or was that Harry internally thinking about Thomas?
Internally.
On the Marine. Okay.
Yeah. It's like you can't put the bad guy in a similar state as Thomas on Demon Reach, because that would hurt Harry to do, and because Thomas is still on ice, and therefore we're not doing that. We have to do something else. As all of his reasons why he can't blow it up or kill it or put it on ice. Or have sex with it.
Well, he could have done that. He chose not to.
Yes. But he was eliminating that from the options.
Well, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Harry is very chivalrous. He will tell you if you have not heard this. He will let you know.
He will.
Yes. Although he might be up to the point of allowing women to open the doors for themselves.
Whoa.
Well, wonders never cease.
In this good Christian podcast, you mentioned such heresy.
All right. Talby Inverno is definitely an alias, as it is Finnish and Portuguese words for winter.
I mean, it's a little on the nose, by the way, isn't it?
Yeah, winter.
Only if you look it up and realize. But yes, I mean, like on its own, it sounds like all right. That's a name. That's a neat.
Yeah, Talby is fine. I'll just accept that as a weird name.
Inferno's a little edgy, but all right. What are you gonna do?
And he defends killers, drug dealers, and pimps. Started about a year after Marcone became Baron Marcone. and he's good. And in 99% trials are wins, which Will tries to say, yeah, but some guys are like, they always rig the system that way. That's how they keep it going, and they prefer to settle that way, which is just another thing that it proves that he is a predator and therefore probably spooky. Nothing determines that it's a spooky guy except for the fact that it's just unlikely to be that good.
I took it as he always just took cases that were like a slam dunk. Like
Yeah, pretty much.
Win to keep his winning percentage high.
I
That's
mean,
what
could be, but
normal
if he's working for the outfit, like
Yeah.
there's no way that his cases are a slam dunk unless the system's rigged.
Or he has a lot of troubleshooters that go find trouble.
Well, it is
in-
Chicago and
man,
Morcone and all that stuff.
Right.
All right, so if they go to court, you can expect it to be very bad for Maya. And how many millions did he get from a cancer charity? I do kind of want to know more of the story about that. How did a cancer charity get involved and then get their money taken away? But I liked to watch Law and Order when I was a kid. So.
Maybe it'll be in the Goodman Gray series because he probably got involved with that.
Good point. Although that reminds me, the Goodman Gray woman seemed very similar to the Talby's woman witch person. They just kind of seemed like a copy and paste of the same type of character, someone that is
A little.
scary and dangerous.
But
And
I
very
feel like
rigid.
Goodman's actually had kind of a personality, and this one was just kind of glary.
I mean, she had a little bit more, but they still feel copy and paste of the same type.
Well, yeah, you may have noticed a lot of the side women have a little bit of that cookie cutter lack of strong personality.
If they're not Mab, they probably
Which, to be fair, makes sense because if you're going to devote the time.
yes. All right, and since Talby Inverno is ruthless, he employs a cybersecurity firm to track anything. It's like, oh, did Gary get caught? Did he use a VPN? Which is insulting to his skill and ability.
Yeah, only us plebs use VPNs. Yeah.
Hey,
And only like 2 of them work.
makes me
So-
feel safe. Okay.
Yes.
It's your security blanket.
How much would you pay for peace of mind, my friend?
Everything.
As someone who gets offers all the time, would you want to have a partnership and talk about our VPN? No, I wouldn't. So,
Do that and raid Shadow Legends, you'll be good forever.
Yeah.
tell them I refuse to do anything where I've got to talk about your product for 90 seconds in the middle of one of my videos. I have a hard enough time getting people watching to the end. You think I want to just make them click off? Nah, I'm good. Keep your 50 bucks.
So Talby is probably the lawyer. Winter is likely from Fairy, and Will is like, well, you're the Winter Knight, therefore can't you just go make him stop? So well, that's not how Winter works, because it's more that you have to go you kill the guy or deal with it in some other way, because if you just rest on your authority, well, clearly you're not strong enough to earn your authority.
Unless you're Mab.
Yeah. I mean,
And what's the point of having authority if you can't just throw it around on occasion? Like,
on occasion.
I'm really powerful, but I have no real power. That's how I take it.
right.
Well, it's funny because even someone like Molly probably couldn't just tell him, no, stop this. You know, she'd have to work for it. Once you get to Mab level, then you're a top dog and you can do that. And then if you're Mother Winter level, you don't even try and screw her over. So
I'd love to watch someone try.
They're going to
You
get
see
a
Mother
cleaver in the face.
Mother Summer's in the back corner going, oh dear.
You didn't have to do that with our cleaver.
That too.
Talby has an office that is open for 4 whole hours per week, which is just to show that like he's kind of there. But the security cameras across the street do show that he's walking in and out for 4 hours a week. Can't you like enhance these pictures so I can get more information? No, because we don't have imaginary movie powers.
I like that line.
Just have to like poke a little fun at itself that way. Let's see. And then because this was good and helpful and Dresden cares about Gary, invites him over to D&D every Thursday, or card games, board games, sometimes RPGs, and they make pizza with the croissant crust, which I don't understand how that would actually add anything
Yeah,
to it.
that was a very strange selling point to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't really like that.
I mean, you had me at pizza.
You got it.
But,
Yeah,
you know,
you got to try it. So I'm
no,
I'm
not
sure
gonna
it's
make
like
pizza
flaky.
better.
it's maybe a little buttery. You know, it's a
Very
richer kind of crust, I would imagine. But I wouldn't necessarily like go out of my way to do it, but I'd try it for sure.
I would-
Someone else
Before I
is making,
tried
I'd eat it.
donar, that's for sure.
You just
I
tell
would
me,
try
hey,
it.
you want to come have pizza? I'm there. You don't have to tell me about the crust.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. It was like a prideful standpoint. Like, yes, we make this with croissant crusts. All right.
I mean, maybe someone served that to Jim, and he was like, "God damn, I gotta tell people about this."
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe
You
it's
don't
why the
understand.
castle's going to go out of business in 18 months is they keep buying the croissant crust. If they just had regular crust, they could get an extra 6 months out of
You
it.
think,
so.
you think a homemade pizza bagel is good? Well, let me tell you.
Fair point.
Homemade pizza's not that hard as long as you do it right and you don't try to do whatever the monstrosity that Andreas presents as pizza. It is
It
not
is-
pizza. It is
It is
horrible.
pizza.
That's
It is
leaves
horrifying.
on dough.
You haven't tasted it. You cannot say that it is
Sure we can.
horrifying.
Well, is this one of those
Americans,
you
we
have
know
like the
better.
cracker with leaves and like oil drizzle all over it and you call it pizza? Is it like one of
No,
those?
he's Danish, and so he decides to put
Allegedly.
like lettuce and was it tortilla chips on top of it and corn.
Well, that not on the same pizza. And I will have you know, the one with the tortilla chips and the corn is the Domino's recipe, which is American.
Okay,
No.
but they don't sell it here because they know better.
It's an American company, but it's a
They're passing
regional
that shit
choice.
off on you. Who doesn't
so-
know what pizza is?
Yeah.
It's not like you go to Iowa
Uncultured-
and get the corn
Uncultured
pizza.
ways of American pizza here. I will stick with that over corn on my pizza.
Yeah, right?
Here they argue about pineapple on pizza, and you guys are talking about corn on pizza. All right.
It's horrifying.
I can't speak for America, but I feel like I know where we stand.
Chapter 7, Harry goes to Talvin Verna's office and knocks 3 times and takes a step back and points the staff at the door because no one's answering. And that's he gets a wait, don't burn it down, please. There's no sense in wrecking the architecture. And
So Harry's reputation precedes him.
oh yeah, I mean they
Literally.
are part of winter, and they do know that he likes to burn things down.
Very
Yes.
uncouth, I imagine.
And,
Using
and
fire.
as the woman answers the door, Harry says, "Well, no offense meant. I would just want to see Talvy." And the woman narrows her eyes at him and says, "I've heard of you, Mr. Dresden, the famous wizard." And then she probably points to all of Battleground's destruction of Chicago and blames it on him.
Makes sense. I mean, not really, but it makes sense.
I mean, the building was on fire and it wasn't his fault. And now all of the buildings are on fire and broken down. And you still say it's not his fault? It's kind of his fault.
It would have happened anyway if he wasn't there.
I was going to say the building was definitely his fault. The city was kind of the Titans' fault.
He's going to get the blame for
Enough
it.
with the victim blaming, Alex. Jeez. He was just there. He helped.
He's a main
next
character.
Next,
Of course
he's going to be the
get blamed
country
for it.
was on fire and it wasn't my fault, and then it'll probably be his fault. But you got to ramp up to it.
Well, Miss Lapland offers very directly to destroy Harry Dresden for Talvy just because she dislikes him. Like, she so very much dislikes his arrogance of being there, being alive and breathing, that she just like, can I please destroy him, please? But not yet,
There
because
he
that would be
exists.
messy.
I feel like she's a cousin of H&M, who just are happy to
I mean-
rip his throat out.
Yeah, she's Lapland and they're Norway. Yeah, sure.
I have to think about that for a second because we have a big brand thing called H&M here, but I got there.
Hugin and Mugen.
Yeah, I got there.
And Harry asks Talvy what his real name is, and then he gets told that he doesn't have a name, something he can thank his mother for. Just very confusing to read.
Luckily, it gets elaborated on later.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in
I
that
mean,
moment, it's just like, what do you mean?
Even if you're not given one at birth, like you get associated with a name, right? So it's like
You
know the only way
Boy.
that I could see this being some kind of metaphysical thing is like in the wizardy sense, in that he doesn't identify with a name somehow, but it's still using Talvy and Verno. It seems like you should be able to track him down,
Mhm.
like even if it's not his true name or whatever. But
Well, and then
yeah.
as they elaborate later, he just gets called like the Nameless Son. Well, that's a name now.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's a title. It's the same way you can call on the Winter Lady.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's see. Yes. So Talby is part of the Winter Court, hence his name of Winter, and it's by adoption, as it were. Queen Mab saw fit to offer me sanctuary decades ago. And he's representing a slimy little pimp named Trip Gregory, and I'd like you to stop doing that, Harry says. But why would he do that? And let's see, if you don't, it might not be for very long that you have a very nice office, because Harry, even though he's trying to be clever, he still keeps falling back onto, I have big muscle wizardry powers, and I'm going to
smash.
Yeah, exactly. But,
Yeah.
And it's not working on anyone, and yet he's still trying, because even though he's getting better, he's still very, very dumb.
He's very much a thug for like the first 2/3 of this story, where it's just like, I'm gonna go threaten the pimp to push his face in. Dude just spent 10 years in prison, man.
He doesn't
Maybe
care.
you're gonna have to do more than that. You
Yeah.
finally talking to somebody more stubborn and stupid than you are, and that's saying something. Like,
Yeah, he
Certainly
totally
more stupid.
You wouldn't have to. The threat of violence isn't enough when he has faced enough violence to just like, okay, this is a part of daily life. You actually have to like up it a lot by actually beating the shit out of him, and Harry's never going to cross that line, apparently.
Yeah, if he doesn't do it here.
it's like it's funny that you say that, the whole like not crossing the line, because it made me think of Harry as like a weird kind of Batman in this case, where it's like, I'm going to threaten you with violence and I'm going to do all this stuff, but I'm going to hold this line. But he's not even really good at the intimidation part, right? And so it's just like, where's your gravelly voice? Come on, like, where you hold him upside down over the side of a building? Like you just show up and be like, you need to stop being mean to people. No. I'm a bad guy. Like, but there's like 10 of these instances in the story. So, you need to stop being a lawyer for bad people. No. I'm a bad guy.
You need to let your vassal get the no. He's loyal to me. What are you talking about?
Goes and talks to the Baron of bad guys. You need to stop being bad. Being bad's not good.
By
Bob,
definition.
you need to stop looking at porn. No.
Right.
So Dalby eventually basically says that he has a fairy kind of obligation that he must be doing these things. And as Dalby says, as you may have occasionally experienced, I am under this like thumb of Mab that like I cannot get out of. But the scales need to remain balanced, which is why beings of winter serve so ably in the justice system. Except how is it balanced when he has a 99% win rate and they're all bad guys? There's no balance there. He's just
That is a
follows
balance.
our-
Winter
follows
always
our
wins.
rules
That's
and
always a
laws.
balance.
I think that's supposed to be balanced. He operates within the mortal legal system, so that's counterbalance. He follows the rules, but he's just very good at it.
But so Harry eventually does get like, okay, let's try from a different perspective. What would I need to do to get you to back off? Well, Talby would need to be released from his obligation, either by Mab or by the principal. And at that point, Harry should have just asked, well, who's the principal? But there's several more words of but what if I just like beat you up? That's not going to
But
work.
what if I
You
punch you in
can't
the
do
face
that.
again?
It's not going to work.
Wait a minute. I feel like we've said this before.
Yeah.
What if I start like ruining your day? It's like, well, then I'd be free to defend myself vigorously. All right. Harry says, there aren't that many beings in winter who rattle me these days. Inverno showed his teeth mainly due to your ignorance. I love how all of these smart people just keep running circles around Dresden, mostly because I find it really fun to watch. But Dresden's really, really quite dumb.
I feel like if I was talking to an actual litigator, I would probably be like a Neanderthal as well, honestly, because they're going to be using $25 words. I'm like, I don't even know if that's a word or not, but I'm willing to bet that they're more smart than me, so it's probably a real word, and I'm just going to be like, yeah, croissant crust, by the way,
I got my GED. What are you talking about?
How about you stop representing bad people, and I let you in on the best secret in pizza history?
Yeah.
And then they go over there and like, this isn't even that great. What? I'm going back to being a bad guy. In fact, I'm going to double down now because you oversold this croissant pizza.
But they don't want to take the problem to Mab because that would get them both chastised from Mab.
Oh, yeah.
They don't.
Luckily,
That's
that
all.
doesn't happen.
All right. So several more words later, it's like, okay, who is your principal so I can make contact? I'm sure it's entirely obvious, Mr. Dresden. It's Baron John Marcone. And it was obvious because Trip is working for Marcone.
Didn't see that coming.
Right. But what we really didn't see coming is Harry has matured. He calls ahead.
That's a first.
Yeah. Instead of just walking up and busting the door down of the building that they're trying to put back together.
Not sure that building actually has a door, but
good point.
The point.
Well, the trailer for the management that Marcone is sitting in trying to manage everything, that probably has a door so he can kick people out of it. And Harry calls ahead. He talks to guard. He asks to see Marcone, and he gets very delicately brought into it. And they're all very polite. Just unknown foreign language to these people. Well, to Dresden.
Well, to him.
Yeah.
The rest of them are polite just as a political necessity.
And we start to see the like, oh, now I respect this guy, and I don't know what to do with that emotion.
Love it.
Can I smash?
That's probably my favorite relationship of this entire series is these two. So
it's a good one. I mean, especially like how much they hate each other, how much they need each other. It's like the moment in changes when it's like, I'm just going to give you what you need. So you go to the bad guys and they get out of my way and I benefit from it. I love that kind of like, I don't want you to help me because you're a bastard.
Yeah, I've always compared to Superman and Lex Luthor when they have to work together. They're actually a really good team, but they won't ever admit that, you know? So
yeah.
If Marcone's like your favorite, how did you like the whole battleground reveal with?
Well, at first I thought Jimmy killed him, and I was like, "You son of a bitch!" But then it was like, "Okay, that's awesome," because I love Daenerys. So yeah, I loved it. That was great. And I mean, there's no way that doesn't end between these two, with one of them being a pile of ashes, probably. But you know, I'm willing to pray that he's going to wait till the very last book to do that. So
and then kill Harry.
Well, you know, I feel like Jim is the type who's like, he thinks that this is going to have a happy ending. He just kind of like, you know, ...
I'd be okay with it if Marcone came out on top of that, but he won't.
Yeah, then it's spinoff. It's going to be the Marcone Files. It's going to be.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's an M.
When we had James on here, he asked Jim if he doesn't feel bad about all the things he put Harry through, and we got Jim's supervillain laugh. So you know, it's probably he probably feels pretty good about it. But yeah, the banter was great between Thorne and Namshiel and Marcone, and I loved Harry's.
Namshiel and everyone, like his Namshiel and the Titan also was pretty good.
True, I loved Harry's indignation where he's just like all these things Marcone can just do when he's only had this angel in his head for a little bit while he had to damn like work for it.
Fake wizard.
It's like, you got an online degree. This isn't fair.
Yeah, right. He went to the University of Phoenix, but that's still more than Harry, even because he's only got a GED.
Wizard, private eye, GED.
Right. So Harry is now talking about a lawyer with Marcone of like, Talvy Inferno is your lawyer, and he's representing Trip Gregory. And, well, yes, Trip Gregory is one of his soldiers, and so Marcone is going to protect him. Well, he's a despicable, stupid little pimp, and he's doing evil things to the woman that I want to help, so make him stop doing that. No.
No, I'm a bad guy.
Remember?
And I'm a
Why
bad
did you think this was going to work?
It's like Batman shaking Joker real hard and telling him to stop. Yeah. It's like, no, just kill me.
You just took my castle, you dick. I'm not helping you for shit.
I think if Harry doesn't get it out, if he doesn't get it out, then it wells up inside of him and it causes an aneurysm. He has to get the stupid out into the world. Because otherwise, that much concentrated, it's just going to kill him.
It's probably
harbor his idiot feelings deep down. He can't repress them. He's got to get them out, or else they linger.
His head's thick.
Yeah, I mean, other than what I'm obviously trying to turn into a meme at this point, like I do kind of like Marcone's sense of loyalty in this regard, where it's like, dude, this dude metaphorically took a bullet for me. I have to take care of him or I stop existing. Like I stop being me. I stop being the head of this organization. I stop being alive probably because that's not something you just double cross after 10 years in the slammer, you know, like.
So yeah, that's a point of Harry. It was like, well, he's an evil bad guy and he's slimy and I don't like him. It's like, well, your assessment is as accurate as it is naive. How many highly intelligent, decent people do you think are working as pimps? They are bad guys. but he has one virtue that Marcone does demand and value very highly, which is the loyalty of he went to prison and not squeal on Marcone, and so therefore he must be protected when he comes out, because that is the coin that he works with more than anything else. It's more valuable than money. It's more valuable than probably magic. It is the actual business of obligation that Harry kind of gets, but he's like selectively forgetting it.
Business of obligation reminds you of anyone?
Yeah, the person he works for. Who would have thought? And yet still,
he
Harry
wants
just
to
says,
pretend. But just drop it because I want you to.
Oh, okay. Well, since you said it that way, no.
He's not even asking nicely.
Well, I mean, God forbid. I think he's asked nicely a grand total of 2 times in this entire series.
Right.
One of them was because he was paralyzed to an angel.
There was it was Turncoat, I think, when Dresden needed Marcone's help, and Marcone says, all you have to do is ask nicely. Please, with a cherry on top.
Yeah, pretty much.
And Dresden still goes back onto the thing, like, you do this or I cause a very big headache for you. How big would you like it to be? And then Marcone has to lay out exactly how stupid this is. Like, we have butted heads several times, and now you're interfering with one of my people. How bad do you think this is going to be for you?
Really?
Like,
you seem to forget I have new toys now.
He has lawyers, which Dresden still doesn't understand, because not even using Talvey, but like he threatens Max Pub of like they're in violation of a number of city health codes. They probably don't have the proper permits, just like the permitting issue he's dealing with the castle and all the taxes and bureaucracy there. Dresden only is thinking with like muscle wizardy powers, explosives, and not with the actual power of the city of Chicago.
Which just to clarify too, they don't address it in this book from what I remember, but like total dick move, man. That's like the nuclear option, right? He's going to involve the mortal authorities in something that should stay on the spooky side and vice versa. Like, you know.
Well, to be fair, this is a totally mortal situation. There's nothing spooky here other than the fact that the two of them are involved.
Well, he's trying to get the spooky lawyer off the case, right? But yeah, just go and be like,
it's all within the realm of normal. You know, you threatening me with this normal ass case and this normal ass pimp, I'm going to get your normal ass bar taken away. Although I think it would probably be amusing for him to try that, you know, because Mac would just not go if he didn't want to.
Yeah, Mac has abilities that kind of go under the radar, but they can. He'll probably withstand that fairly well.
Give the health. Well, if he's gotten by with this many code violations already, he's clearly just given the health inspectors some of his beers, and they've been happy with that to look the other way.
Remind me, do we know like anything about Mac really at all yet?
He's a former
like 95%. Yeah. So what we know about Mac 100% is that he's out. Other than that, we're reasonably sure he's a Grigori at this point, right? He's a watcher.
Yeah, the speculation for years that he was a Grigori angel, and then he finally got outed as, you know, having angelic properties in Battlegrounds. Finally, it just still hasn't been 100% specifically named as that.
There's a very strong perpendicular line that hasn't connected yet with proof, but there's a lot of circumstantial evidence.
Because no one said the word.
So. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one and Who is Cowl have always been like the ones I was like,
I'm firmly on the side of it's Petrovich.
Right.
I agree that it's Petrovich.
But he's also Listen, and he's also everybody else who's never
that's your
doesn't
personal,
really have a thing. It's mine because it's stupid and ridiculous, and I have no proof for it. And I mean, I'm happy to just keep throwing it out there because I don't.
I fell down the rabbit hole on Reddit one time about how it was Elaine. I was like,
right? No, that's his side. That's Kimori at least.
Yeah.
Elaine is still better than time traveling Molly or something.
Everything is better than time traveling Molly.
But I don't know. I have people that ship Molly and Harry in my comments all the time, and I think that's disgusting. Yeah. But you know, hey, there's a group out there for everything.
You agree because you're biased in favor of someone else who's not getting with him ever again,
right? Like talking about a ship that's less likely to happen than Harry and Molly. That's Andreas. So you know,
Well, no, Andreas and Harry is more likely to happen than Harry and Lucio at this point.
Harry and Morcone would be worth at least betting $1 on.
No, you're only getting that's it. You're getting the trailer, and that's it.
When they put out that trailer and they had the scene of those two getting dressed together, I was like, "Oh, Jim's taking the new direction with this book." Okay, so I always said that that's my favorite relationship. I didn't mean that kind of relationship, but hey.
But would you be disappointed?
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting. I'd like to see how Jim writes it. If I'm being honest, it would be.
I would be disappointed only because Harry's just going to be complaining the entire time, and Morcone's going to be on top.
Now, with Mike saying something he didn't think he would be talking about today, I'm going to echo that.
Yeah, that's on the blackout card. Yes.
No, I brought up that trailer before where they were getting dressed together, and I was like, okay.
Well. 2021 it is.
That's in the alternate universe where Jim Butcher goes full on Anita Blake, right? And then it just,
Don't remind me of Anita Blake. We do not have time for that rant.
You don't have to make the rant. You are totally within your power not to rant. Just think about Harry and Lucio, and how it's never going to happen.
Inner peace.
Again.
Inner peace.
Yeah.
How should I know Anita Blake? I feel like I know the name. What is this? This is another
Lorca
Hamilton, right?
So Lorca Hamilton wrote the Anita Blake series. It starts with, I think the first book was Guilty Pleasures, and it was a decent urban fantasy until it just became full-on erotica. And it was more like there's a veneer of plot to piece together the orgy scenes, kind of.
Like it. A veneer of plot pieced together to get to the orgy scene.
It starts as a pretty good, solid urban fantasy. Then it slides more and more into paranormal romance, and I was still kind of, because the plot was still pretty decent. And then at some point, it just goes full erotic. I was like, what am I even reading anymore? What's going on here?
Right.
Yeah, I think every once in a while I'll be like, "Hey, you like Dresden Files? I think you would like this," and all the comments no, he wouldn't. So,
how dare you?
But Alex Veris is the one that I get. Actually, one of my patrons right now is he read the entire Alex Veris, or listened on audio to the entire Alex Veris series, and he said he thinks that Dresden fans would like it quite a bit.
I've heard that. I haven't gone through that. My number one recommendation is a series called Mercy Thompson for people who like Dresden.
It's
very good.
Besides Dresden and Buffy, I'm still very new at urban fantasy. So again, the derails. I'm so good at that.
Oh no, this is fine. I just want to. Do I want to continue that conversation, or should I do my actual job of directing us back to the topic?
No, I don't know.
When have you ever done your job?
When I brought up Anita Blake, you seem like you had a lot of information, and your timbre raised just a little bit, you were a little excited. So I'm just like what you like. Don't let anybody tell you
I haven't actually read the Anita Blake series. I'll say I tried to read the first book twice, and at two different points, I just I can't deal with it. This is just bad writing. I don't know what's happening. There's something there's a scary child, and then there's a storm, and I really don't care. So I'm not going to go back to it. But I tried twice because people told me at least the first few books were good urban fantasy, and I just couldn't get through it.
I think the first 3 are pretty good urban fantasy, but I mean, it's been a long time since I read them. It's been almost 10 years now. So, but the evolution it took just still irks me.
Well, I have no problem with like sex and stories or anything like that, but there's can it be something that is worthwhile, or there's actually a point to it, or any form of character? But there was a point in the first book, 10 pages in or something, she was walking down a street with a vampire and a car was coming, and they had to hide the fact that they were her and a vampire, and so they started kissing something. I don't get it. That was already really bad.
Yeah, I'm always driving in the car, and all of a sudden I'm like, "Oh, fucking vampire!"
Right? There's already a very bad veneer of reason for it. Is just
listen. As long as they're sparkling, you know what to look out for. That's how that works now, right?
I need to do I have this idea about doing. I love vampire books. I've read a lot of vampire books, but somehow Twilight. Twilight skipped. I think I was playing World of Warcraft and not reading, so it completely skipped the whole Twilight thing.
You didn't miss a lot. I mean,
but I'm thinking about doing a YouTube series where I read the book, watch the movie, and then from now, because I don't really have any connection to it, and just see how is it, and how does the book stand up against the movie.
So you're just looking to take your IQ down as many points as possible.
Just to try it. Just
like Harry, he's got to get that
interesting.
dumb out. He's got to let everybody hear it, right?
Yeah. I saw some other guy on BookTube do it, and I thought it was it could be a fun
I
time.
saw someone
And
did
he
that with
survived.
Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and he's got like millions of views on these videos. I was like, yeah, that's why I should do that with Lee Bardugo. I mean, I know it's not going to be for me, and it's going to make a lot of people angry because a lot of people love her books. But I'm like, I know I'm not the target demographic. I think that's what would be funny about it, But
yeah, I mean,
I could only make
actually,
it through 2 of them, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I just can't.
And then
Well,
on,
I got to choose between these 2 boys. Yeah, so.
I actually got them over on my bookshelf because so many people love them that I kind of wanted to I thought it would be good content, and they must be very popular for a reason, but I don't know
And
if
then
they're
you
for
remember
me.
you've actually got to read them though, and it's like, that's the rough.
well,
part.
you could do 50 Shades. You could do that. I'm sure that'll still get you a lot of views.
That I'm not sure I want to do because that's probably a little too close to what Anita Blake turned into that I really didn't like.
I'm with Alex in that I don't mind sex scenes in books. One, as
Can
long
they
as they're
be
competently
good?
written.
Can they have like
because a
a
lot
purpose
of
to
male
They're never
fantasy
good.
authors, it's just straight cringe. It really is.
Yeah,
But it's got to make sense to the story. Like there's a series by Peter V. Brett I was liking called The Demon Cycle. First 2 books really good, and then the 3rd book it was like, man, I don't know if you ain't gotten none in a while. It was just straight erotica, and then the 4th book started the same way, and I was like, you're not good at it either, so you need to sign. I just stopped reading the series, and it's like it made no sense. It got into the levels of like the Spartacus TV show. It's been 10 minutes. It's time for a sex scene. That's how that show was, and that's how that book turned into.
yeah, that is how that show was.
I just walked
Sounds
away.
about right. I think I've watched
We've
one
got
episode
10
of
minutes
that.
with gratuitous violence or sex. One of them's gotta happen.
It's been a bit too long, and we just need to have a wall of boobs for no reason. It's just like
First of
whatever.
all,
If you really want
there's
that as your
always a
aesthetic.
reason.
I mean, I was never
For a
against
wall
that
of
part, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind sex scenes in books either. I don't particularly care. I usually just I want to get on with the plot, but I don't mind if it makes sense for the story or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I prefer more Fade to Black because I'm more interested in actually continuing the story. Okay, and then I know that
No
I know they
lore,
had
no
sex, and that's
exposition. I don't
meaningful.
want this.
They had sex. That's meaningful for the characters. I know it. I don't need to read 2 pages about how they had sex. I don't really care. Let's move on.
And then subsequently, as long as one party is not storming out after a misconception after the sex, then so back to the law. I guess we might as well finish up this chapter.
We can finish this chapter, which is basically Harry getting his brain screwed on again, which is like, okay, so you have this rule, right, Marcone, about no kids, no damage goes to kids, right? And it's kind of like Marcone realized he's actually speaking sense and pays attention. It's like, okay, go on. Well, Trip Gregory's hurting the kids that Maya's going to be taking care of with the Sunflower Tutoring Agency, and those kids want to grow up to be affluent, and if they have their tutoring taken away, they're not going to be able to get that affluence, and they're not going to be able to spend money on the prostitutes and drugs and whatnot that Marcone's trying to sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is an argument that carries more weight. Okay, Marcone says he dislikes inefficiency, but actually he just doesn't really want to hurt kids, and Dresden's never going to give him that credit.
No, that would be stupid.
Then Marcone deliberately says, "You took my castle from me. How dare you?" But well played. And now you get to deal with all of the problems that come with it. But here's some advice. Follow the money. And so Dresden gets another clue. And says, okay, what's the cellmate and how can I go find him?
Dresden should have fucking thought about this in the first place because
Right.
he's a professional, but
No, he was a professional and he hasn't been a professional for many
It's
years.
been a while since he was a private eye. He's a little rusty.
It's been since Morgan.
He wants to go talk to the cellmate like any old regular PI without wizard powers. He just hasn't been a PI in a few years. And that is the end of that chapter. He's going to Pontiac to talk to the cellmate.
But he's not going in.
Was it one? Did we make it through one chapter? Or
This
It
was
was
two? Fancy.
2 chapters.
Out of
Actually,
like
technically,
15 or
we
so,
started-
right?
Grape, Koolaid, and sex scenes, and I just completely took it out of everything. It's my
You know,
It's
this
fine.
is entirely his fault this time. The fact that all our other episodes are exactly like this, guest or no guest. No, I don't know. This one's on you.
It was probably
I mean,
more
if it
entertaining.
takes
than
this long
you
to
were.
go through in-depth discussion for a 100-page novella, I mean, what if like the next Dresden book's like 700 pages? I mean,
We
geez.
milk it.
You thought 20 minutes was a long time for 100 pages. boy, did we learn you something.
We did a
I was gonna
reread,
say,
and I
I'm
think
a-
it took us 2 years.
Yeah, and how long was Battleground? Was 4 or 5 episodes, and we ran over just about every episode.
That makes the wait
Yeah.
between books a lot less, right?
Yes, because we have a
Sure.
very
That's
long
a way
wait
to look
between
at it.
Hey, look, this is the first time as a Dresden fan, and I know that
I'm checking our
People off,
episodes.
but I have to wait. This is the first time I've had to wait because when I started was right when Peace Talks was about to come out, and I speed ran to get done before Peace Talks. So yeah, it's not fun. But that's also how I felt when people would just watch the Game of Thrones show and like, oh, I gotta wait for next season. I'm like, fuck you. I've been reading these books since the year 2000. Kiss my ass. You know, so
The first one came out in '96. You dick.
We did 10 episodes of an hour plus each of Battlegrounds.
Did we? We did get up to
okay.
10. Good for us.
And the last episode is an hour and 51 minutes long.
I do
Yeah,
remember
because we were like, we're not doing this again.
yeah, we must get to the end
We
of
have
this.
to finish.
I think that last episode was just the last chapter of the book too.
It might have
Like
been.
it's just the one
Well,
chapter.
that's because the last chapter is an hour and a half of like audio. It's literally like 10%.
I was gonna say it is a
book
very
or something.
hefty chapter.
A lot happens. Yeah.
You got the Justine stuff. You got the wrap up with Mab. You got the wrap up with Carlos. You got lots of nonsense.
Right,
All right, we did
part
it.
two
So
of
good
the
job,
law,
everyone.
which is probably only 20 minutes of the law and 40 minutes of tangents, but it was still fun. Mike, thank you very much for joining
Hey,
us.
anytime. I love it. Anytime we can just talk about barrels and pizza crust and stuff, I'm down with that.
I mean, what else is there in life?
All
We
right.
should have it on while we weren't recording sometime.
Well,
Oh,
there
you
was
want to do
that
the one where we
discussion.
do our Nick
The
Cage
Witcher.
movies or our Jim Carrey movies?
I have a segment on my channel called Talk About Nothing where we really just turn on the camera and just see what happens kind of thing.
That's
And it,
exactly
group
what the other one
discussion.
is. Like,
Yeah,
while we
so,
weren't
yeah.
recording kind
I
of
love it.
conversations, we would just hit live and we go for something because there's always like, you need to go watch this movie, then tell us about it. It's like, okay, so we just did that on a schedule and we're putting it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun.
All right, we'll check that
Got
out
its
next week
merits.
for us because we every alternating week.
Do we have a
And-
topic for next week?
Well, there was the
We're
topic
gonna-
possibly
we're
arguing
gonna-
about The Witcher.
Yeah, we're gonna fight about The Witcher now.
Are
Fucking
we?
5 out of 10.
I'm saying you're not gonna get a fight out of me because I'm just gonna be like, whatever.
Let's go back to talking about pizza.
This is not a topic I'm gonna fight over. I have no passion for The Witcher
This
whatsoever.
reminds me of his opinions on Murphy in that one episode I was on before.
No, those I have opinions on.
Yeah.